crew to save the day.
The Mighty House crew is on the job. This is
Mighty House.
Okay, hey, we're back, and today we're going to talk about the 10 most common problems you find when you're All right, hey, we're back, and today we're going to talk about the 10 most common problems you'll find when you're purchasing a home. So stay tuned. Before we do that, let's down in here somewhere, let's click the bell and the subscribe button. That way you'll be notified next time we post a new video. One comes out usually every Thursday night, Friday morning, somewhere in there. But once a week we'll get you a new video. So click that subscribe button, click the bell, and we'll be ready to go for the next one. So first up, Rich, what do we have? The 10 most common house problems.
So this is the 10 most common house problems, and this list is lifted directly from internachi.org. Now, if you don't know who NACHI is the National Association of Certified Home Inspection. And we've known quite a few members. We've actually met with NACHI a number of times. We have friends in the organization. InterNACHI is basically the international version.
Got it.
So to give them credit, this comes from internachi.org, their website. And it says it's based on a recent survey of U.S. and Canadian home inspectors, and it resulted in this list of 10 problems most frequently found in homes they've inspected. So what I was kind of, I don't want to say disappointed, but the list didn't get into any detail.
No, but we can.
But that's what we're going to do. We're going to discuss and give some examples of what you should look for under each of these 9 items we're going to cover.
Right. So first up, what do we have?
Improper surface grading or drainage.
Something like this.
So the problem is most people don't go out and buy a house during a rainstorm or shortly thereafter. You know, usually you buy it, it's nice out. So Ron will tell you, the one thing you can see, obviously, what jumps out at most people is the ponding water.
But this is what jumps out to me.
What's the bigger problem?
Is this. See, the siding goes down into the dirt. So that means this dirt is higher than the top of the foundation. So all this moisture is running in on top of the foundation and going right into the house, through into the basement, or if it's a slab on grade, that's flooding the house.
Even if that were your garage, which I assume it's not because that's in the background with the car in front of it.
Right.
But, even if that was your garage, that's where your moisture is getting into your sill plates and rim joists, and that's what's causing that to start rotting out. That's where you'll see dirt coming down your walls or dirt on your basement floor. That's what it's from. It's just washing in underneath your sill plates because the grade is too high at the house, and it's definitely too high further away from the house. So let's see what it should look like.
Right.
So when we go to the next picture, what we talk about is not necessarily building up dirt, but taking dirt away.
Correct.
So the outer edges that were too high need to be dug out, and you can actually put that towards the house if you're not covering the bottom of the foundation or the top of the foundation, excuse me.
Right.
Or you put it up the hill, so to speak, but you're creating a swale, a natural way for water to go out. And you don't need a lot of pitch. I mean, a quarter or a half inch in 10 feet is plenty of pitch. Water will seek its own level. So we're not talking about doing, these huge drainage ditches.
Right.
So,
now,
but putting a swale in there. So that's one thing you always want to look for when you're looking at a house.
And if you have a very level lot and it's very level to the street and there's really nowhere to pitch this, then you can actually put in drain tile with some, with some drains and take it out to the storm sewers if you have them. And then you daylight it out by the street so that way you're giving that water a path to get out. So if you can't build these swales, then you had to put in some drain tile and drain the lot.
Right. Okay, second thing they find most often is electrical problems. Now, you being an electrician, well, that might be a little over the top.
Is that a funnel?
Just saying, that might be just a little over the top.
Yeah.
Although we're not on plumbing yet, but that looks like a clean out pointing down.
Right. So here's the problem. This is leaking, so it hits this funnel and then goes down into this drain, into this pipe, and then goes out. So that way, none of this wiring gets wet.
And that's the problem.
So no, that's the solution. That's the solution is the funnel.
That is really bad.
Now the circuit
so
doesn't
let's just go to the next picture because that thing's beyond description. Because that's just terrible. Okay. So what did you call this during show prep there, Sonar? You
What-
called this a...
Was that a mixed nuts right there?
Yeah, mixed can of nuts. Yeah, that's it. So I see some whites, I see some reds, and I see some yellows. So yeah,
Right.
it's a mixed can of nuts.
And some burnt stuff right there. Those neutrals aren't tightened enough, and it's actually creating a hot spot
Arcing.
and starting to melt that neutral right there.
Thus, when they say electrical fire, that's what they mean.
Yes.
So electrical problems, and we'll talk about plumbing a little late, further down, but electrical and plumbing problems are usually results of poor remodeling.
Yes.
And this could be untrained homeowners, people that think they're just saving a few dollars.
Yep.
The worst ones for the longest time after the recession were flippers.
Yes.
Because they did not care. They just get the light on, splices in walls, a lot of issues that were impossible to see.
Yep.
And it works the same thing with plumbing. So it's really important to get somebody to really check things, continuity testers, circuit testers, and start checking some stuff.
Right.
Hell, you can check the resistance on a breaker, you know what I mean? And that'll tell you if there's too many splices, it'll have higher than average resistance. So you can check all that. It just takes time.
Right.
So if you're concerned about a situation, spend the time.
Right. And go back to the previous picture also. So you have all of this. There's also something called wire fill that just doesn't pass. And like you had said too, they've got an extension ring on here. So they've got a box back here that wasn't enough room. So then they put another box on the front of it, and they packed all this in there. It still does not pass because there's just too many wires in there. So also you have to look at the wire fill, and there's just too much in there. That's not a good situation.
Even a typical home inspector is not going to crawl through the attic and take all the covers off the boxes. So
No.
again, it's buyer beware a little bit. If somebody tells you it was recently remodeled, what do you say? Did you get a permit?
Right.
May I see the inspections? Whatever. You know what I mean? If they go, oh no, we did it ourselves.
Ding,
Yikes.
ding, ding. Red
Just saying.
flags.
Yeah, and not everybody does a bad job. Some people hire the right people.
Yep.
But it's definitely an alarm bell, a red light. If somebody's, oh yeah, we did it without a permit. We didn't need one.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
Okay. Roof damage can be a real problem.
Yes. And now, like this one, you may not see it.
Meteors.
Yeah. So this one you may not see from the ground. It's small. It's right in the valley, right along the gutter line, and you may not notice it. So
And it probably wouldn't actually leak into the house because it looks like it's over the soffit. So
Right.
you know what I mean? You might get some water damage inside the wall, but you may not even realize it's leaking.
right. So a good
That
roof
looks
inspection.
like raccoon.
Yeah, that
or
looks like a
squirrel.
raccoon just burrowed a hole right through there. So
Nice.
yeah. So and you can also have this wind damage where the wind just happened to pick it up and lifted the tabs off. So you've got the shingles underneath, but that still needs to be corrected. So you have to watch out for that wind damage.
That'll be an obvious one to most inspectors. And like on the pitch of that roof, you can usually see most of that from the street.
Yep.
But, there's an underlying problem. It's either the age of the roof, and if you've had some leaks, is there a secondary water barrier, ice and water or whatever? So yeah, it's not just, we'll throw 7 more shingle up there or 12 more shingle and fix all that. And
Right.
you'll be good for another 15 years.
Yeah, no, you won't. And there was also a run of shingles that were bad that never sealed. The seals didn't
Right.
work on them. So a lot of those have been replaced now, but you still may end up with some shingles out there that
Right.
were, failed and are under warranty. So you can double check with your roofer on that.
Well, and I'm in the south. So, our roof should be met anything coastal for 175 miles an hour, the wind. So when you see the tabs blown away like that, you go up there and count the nails because I have to put six nails per shingle.
Oh, jeez.
And an architectural shingle.
Right.
Yeah. So, it's your nailing pattern, everything. And then our, the stagger or the exposure is not 5, it's 4.5 to 4. So all those things add up. So
Yes.
anyway.
Yep, they do.
So yeah, bad roof is.
Yep.
Bad roof is. Heating, cooling systems.
Yes.
Oh,
So-
pee on the floor.
So that water, that could be a couple of things. That could be the air conditioning, or the condensate drain from the furnace. It could be the vent going outside is not, draining properly, and it's all just running out on the floor. That too much of that
Your
water gets in.
humidifier.
It could be the humidifier. All that water could be
Just
getting inside
on.
and shorting out the circuit board, and you might end up needing a new furnace. So make sure you have that checked and serviced. on a regular basis.
Well, I mean, you go back to the AC. I mean, it could be just your A coils all frosted up.
Right.
You know, because you haven't changed that filter in 10 years.
Right.
So it's not getting enough airflow, so it's freezing up, and maybe the thing shut itself off, and now it's thawing out.
Right.
So a lot of things. So maintenance on that unit is really important. And if you want to make your buyer feel comfortable, whether you're the seller or the potential buyer, is it's nice to see a name on there of a company that comes out and services it at least once a year.
On a regular
Because
basis.
then you move in, you just call that same company and go, okay, you've been doing it every June or every July. Just come on out next June and July and do it.
That's it. That's it. And go back and watch one of our other videos on what filters not to use. And we can show you some nasty ones too.
Okay. Poor overall maintenance.
Yes.
Ooh. Okay.
Go ahead.
So it looks maybe some tuck pointing might have been necessary there.
Yeah, right in here. Yeah, you might want to do some tuck pointing. You've got some vines.
Maybe pull some weeds from like over here.
Yeah, right in here. You got some weeds growing up there. The bricks are falling apart and spalling. And that's something you may not notice walking around the house. A lot of people don't look up and they don't look at the chimney to see what's going on. And then what's missing up here, Rich? It's kind of like worn out.
Well, it just looks like there's no storm collar. You've got a clay pipe coming through a concrete chimney cap, which actually doesn't look like a concrete chimney cap.
Nope.
It looks like mortar.
Yeah, it's worn off. It should it should be overhanging the edge.
Well, they should always be formed up and poured concrete, or you purchase a pre-made concrete cap and it sits on top. But I've seen so many masons where they literally take shakes, the wood that they use to separate the courses of the brick in the bundles,
right?
And they lay them up there and just cover that with mortar. And then the mortar dries out over the next couple of years and it starts cracking, and you have no idea, but you're getting water almost, on a brand new house, 2 years old, you're getting water in there because they never poured the concrete cap.
Right.
So, and that rain shield because that's actually a wood burning fireplace. It does not, or it appears to be.
Right.
It does not look like the flue for a water heater or a furnace, but the spark arrestor and all that looks kind of a little off too.
Yep, a little tired. Mm-hmm. So, structural issues, Rich. Is there anything wrong with this house?
Not really. It's the house of mirrors and halls, I'm thinking. Earthquake, sinkhole. No, I mean, obviously there's an issue with foundation, right?
Yep.
And that's kind of exaggerated as well. But I mean, we've seen that before on older homes where they use stone foundations without real footings.
Right.
And you get a lot of rain and it moves. We get droughts and it moves.
Correct. Yeah.
The ground contracts when it dries out, and houses settle then more so sometimes, when it dries out, even more than frost.
Correct. Yeah, it depends, because if you've got a clay subsoil that you're building on, it can move, and you'll actually find gaps between your foundation and the dirt where there's large gaps and water just runs right down through there. So, you
Those are more environmental,
Yeah.
realistically. I mean, it's not like, he did this house wrong. It's more an environmental. Even this house doesn't necessarily mean anybody did anything wrong. Well, maybe.
Yeah.
So the first house, the main house is settling over time because that's the old part.
Right, and then here's the addition.
But that first addition looks like it's already falling away, and then
Right.
the addition in the back, which looks like the third addition is, that's just bad.
Yeah, it is. So
Somebody didn't tell them there was a hill there.
right, yeah. So structural issues.
But no, you want to look for things that are out of level, out of plumb, cracks in masonry. And, the big one to me is cracks in masonry. If you see that zigzag crack in the masonry, they can open up quite a bit.
Yes.
Which, if they've been filled with mortar, don't breathe a sigh of relief, because in order to properly fix that, you really need to get that mortar out of there, because until they had filled that, you could have probably jacked up the foundation where it was sagging and underpinned it and closed that gap by putting the foundation back where it was supposed to be.
Right.
When somebody just points up that crack, now it's binding. So
Right.
it actually makes it worse.
Yep.
It can actually make the wall move faster. If you get water in there and it freezes, it'll push that foundation down faster. So caulk and mortar are not always the true fix for, masonry moving. So
Right.
speak to a structural engineer or good companies that do slab jacking and foundation restorations.
Right, and older homes with old wood beams, you'll find those are sagging. They sag to the middle. That's fairly common. You can jack them up and straighten them out if you want. But if it's minor, I mean, that's just, I just say that's just character. You know, you just chalk it up to character and be done with it.
You know, you buy a house with an old wood beam down the middle, you can pour a pad in the middle of that span and you can add another post. And I suggest you buy a screw post and you don't level it the first day.
Right.
You know, you put that screw post in there and you get it tight, and say every 3 months you move it an 1/8 inch.
Yep.
And maybe in a year and a half, you've got that floor level, but you haven't destroyed everything in the house because you've given it time to move with it.
Correct.
If you just crank that thing up level, everything else has no time to react. You know, doors are now bound up because somebody's messed with all those doors the whole time it was sagging. You jack it up, now it's tight.
Right, and now you got to recut doors and stuff. So, yeah, you take it up slow, or if it's, you know, if you really want to correct it, or like I said, you just chalk it up and call it character. If it's a 140-year-old house, it's not going to be straight. It just can't be. So
Can't be. All right, next is plumbing. Do we have plumbing issues?
Plumbing. So this is
that picture's hard to see, but go ahead and explain.
So this is in a bathroom, and you can see right there, that's probably where the toilet is, and it goes out through the main stack there. Here's a lateral run over for the shower or the tub with a drum trap.
Right.
And then here's your water supplies there and there coming up. So you get into some of this old stuff. You got like a drum trap like this right here. Those you need to have cut out and replaced. So when you open up and going to do some remodeling, you need to look for this kind of stuff. And if you're buying a house and you can get into the basement and actually see it, you'll be able to tell what's going on with the plumbing. So
well, and that one by the toilet flange, or what we assume to be the toilet flange, the top of the pipe is missing.
Right in here.
Just people don't realize, but the cast iron pipe, sewer gas eats it.
Yeah.
So if it doesn't have enough water running through it or enough vent, it just sits there and eats it. And before we taped this, I was just telling Ron, I've only run into it twice. Once was a client's home that was about 80 years old. Mm-hmm. Once was actually in my own home that was only like 45 years old.
Yep.
Just happened to be where it was, the lack of it was back pitched, I believe, for the vent, and it just ate the top of it off.
Right. Yep. And that's the sewer gases eating through it, and that's just that's due to improper venting and, you know, just over time. Age will sometimes do it too.
Right. So one of the things that they brought up on the website, which is probably the more common, and it goes back to what I said earlier when we were talking about electrical, is people do remodeling, and not everybody is good at sweating copper. And most old homes started out with galvanized pipe.
Right.
So the best way to do it is to take out all that galvanized pipe and replace it all the way back to your main shutoff with copper or something else. You know, I mean, not everybody loves PEX, not everybody loves CPVC,
right? But
you don't want to mix them.
Correct.
You know, whatever's good in your municipality, go back to the main shutoff, start there, and that's why we always say start building in the basement and work your way up, because you can change all that pipe, and when you get to the first floor, it's right there underneath the floor box, you know, in the kitchen area or a bathroom. Now you take the floor up, and now you can extend that, get rid of whatever you had, galvanized or whatever. I still prefer copper, but we used a lot of PEX, or Uponor is actually the brand, but it's a PEX.
Right.
But what's changed with PEX is the fittings. You know, it's much better than it used to be. But yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
Right. So check the plumbing out, see what's going on. Also, the main drain, you know, from the house all the way out, if you're buying a house, make sure they run a camera down there and pay for your inspector to run a camera and scope that all the way out to the main sewer. Or to your
And don't be afraid to ask questions. You know, I recently sold a house, and we met with the buyer after the closing, and I walked him around the house, and here's your main shutoff. Here's where your sewer clean out is. I mean, I actually kind of drew it on the survey too. You know, just some few things. Plus you have an irrigation system. So here's your main valve, here's your controller. It's an old analog, but it works.
Right.
And then here's the gist of where all of your sprinkler heads are. So just little things that just buying a house isn't going to answer that question. Home inspector's job's not to answer that question.
Right.
He's there to check out the systems and make sure they're adequate, or name the length of time they have left on their life, their usefulness, but it's not there to explain the whole system to you. You know what I mean? So
nope. So you just don't want to find a root ball like this in your sewer line a month after you bought the house. So
yeah, that could be costly, especially when you got clay pipe like that, because now you got to line it.
Yep, exactly.
Right. Last one, exteriors.
Yep, exterior. Now this is missing some normal maintenance. You can see they keep bondoing these windows up and keep painting it and more bondo, and pretty soon it's bondo
Yeah, but
on
that's
top of
maintenance.
bondo. It
Yes,
is.
the windows are shot, but I do maintain them.
Yes. So you have to look for this kind of stuff. It may be painted and pretty, but it's got bondo underneath it. So you make sure your inspector's looking for that kind of stuff. Doors.
Well, even you, if you're looking for a house, doors.
Yeah, so you
I mean,
can see
that
the
too
bottom.
might be a little extreme with the amount of rot on the bottom. Like, geez, I didn't notice that when we were looking.
Right. Yeah.
But no, you do want to look at the bottoms of doors and, look at window sills. It's amazing how people buy paint.
Right.
They walk in, this room's comfortable, or I love the colors, or I love this, and the floor tile, and it's like,
And then you
didn't see
find-
all the outlets are you didn't notice all the outlets were upside down.
Right. And the soffits are rotted out, and the fascia boards and the siding's all messed up. So you want to look for that kind of stuff.
Well, and it's funny, this actually popped up on Facebook today. It said, you ever want to irritate your friend that's an electrician? It's to go around your house and turn all the screws on your cover plate so that they don't all go up and down. And it sounds like a funny thing, and most people would be like, what?
Uh-huh.
But in my house, every screw goes up and down,
Yep.
and every good electrician does that. So
Yep.
if you walk in a house and all the screws are all kittywampus and all over the place, it's a warning that somebody did the work themselves.
Right.
And
Or
you might want to do a little more investigating.
right. Or if all the outlets are horizontal and all the ground plugs are on the right, and then you see one that's on the left, somebody else was in there that doesn't know what the hell they're doing. Or if you have them vertical and everything's upside down where the ground's on top, and then you find one where the ground's on the bottom, somebody's been digging in there that probably didn't know what they were doing.
So all of my outlets are vertical,
Right.
and in each of the bedrooms, I have outlets on one wall where the ground is up, not down.
Because?
And I was at first confused. Those are my half-hots, as they call them. Those are my switched outlets.
Okay.
So that was the way they identify that the outlet in that room is a switched outlet because the ground is up.
Okay. I've never seen that done. So that's a good
I never did either. I was like, why are you doing that? He goes, half-hot, man. 'Cause I didn't know what a half-hot was till I moved down here. You know what I mean? We
Right.
called them switched outlets,
correct.
but it's only half switched. The other
It's
side is
constant hot.
always hot.
Yep.
Yeah, half-hots.
Yep.
There you go, Ron.
Cool.
Yeah, that's what they do. They turn them upside down. So if you always put yours to the right,
Yep.
your switched outlets you could put to the left, and that tells the end user that that's a switched outlet.
Okay. It tells me something was wired wrong. That's what that tells me. Okay, what do
All
you
right,
got?
so exteriors, so the last thing that they had, or not the last thing, so 9 is poor ventilation. And they were saying that they were finding homes that were over sealed and had too high a moisture content within the home. Now you got to remember this was done by the U.S. and Canadian members.
Yeah.
Canada's been around with sealing stuff off with plastics and tuck tape
Right.
for a lot longer. And because Visqueen is vapor impermeable, I could see that being a problem.
Right. In Canada.
In zone 6.
Yes.
But for the most of us, I've never run into an oversealed house.
No, it's just not possible. At least what we've seen with current building codes the way they are. It's not going to be
Right.
an issue. It's going to be a lack of insulation that you're going to see
Yeah.
most of the time.
Yeah, and you might have an uncontrolled moisture issue,
Right.
right? Like in the winter, the house is too dry because it's too dry outside, so all the moisture in your house zooms out.
Right.
Maybe in the fall and the spring during rains and stuff, your house always feels damp, and it's because you have moisture building up in the crawl space and it has nowhere to go but up through your house.
Right.
Next picture shows you, maybe you're just doing poor venting. You have a bath fan that's pointing straight at your roof deck.
Right.
Now, that appears to be spray foam, or not foam, but cellulose insulation. But my guess is the reason it's stuck there is because of the moisture coming out of that vent.
Right.
So in the winter, that's also going to ice up. That's going to have frost and all kinds of stuff. So
Right. And you can see the
that
wood
needs
here
to go
has
outside.
got water damage and stuff. So that's, like you said, that should be vented outside through a roof cap.
Oh, they must have pointed it the other direction.
There you go.
Well, and you can tell that's not in zone 4 or 5, like up in Chicago.
Yeah.
Because if you notice, that 2-inch vent doesn't have a frost increase.
Nope, it doesn't. And you got a fur
So
coat.
that would not be any place where they would have frost so much. So that is actually just a poor job in a warm neighborhood.
Yes, yes, it is.
Another one of those.
Yep.
So we had 10, but we really
Well,
did.
because 10 they called miscellaneous,
Right, which is BS.
and they had no examples. But they did say that most of that would be like paint and things like that. And home inspectors have their place in this world, but they shouldn't be worrying about, it's not their concern about paint, and things like
Finishes.
that, stuff that you should be able to fix. They're there to really look at your major appliances, major structural, and even then they don't tell you it's broke really per se, or that it's perfect. Is it doing the job it's intended to do? And is it going to meet its life expectancy? A HVAC system may be 12 years.
Right.
If it's 9 years old, okay, you got maybe 3 years left. With maintenance, maybe 5.
Right.
That's the job.
Right.
And
they're not going to be looking for they're not going to be looking for moldings that match, the door casings that are done correctly. Fit and finish is really not going to be where they're going to focus their attention.
And some may do it. Some may just go above and beyond. You know what I mean? It's not like everybody does everything the same. So, all right. So that's our
There's your 10 most
9.5
common house
things.
problems, right there.
Yes.
10, right? That's what we did, was
Yes.
10. So make sure you click on that subscribe button and click that bell if you liked it. Leave us a note below if you agree or disagree. And go see our buddies over at Klein sometime. Check it
Get
out.
them at Home Depot or any electrical supply house.
That's right. So there you go. All right. Until next week,
Keep it
square and level.
keep it square and level. There you go.
Wait a minute.
Wait. Oh, wait. He didn't screw it up.
Yeah, well, don't we go the other way?
Keep it square and level.
Yeah, normally, but he does it every now
Until
and
next
then.
time. It depends. I'm a switch hitter. I do it that way.